Hey, Jeff Lerner here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the importance of leadership and 6 traits that will make you a great leader. So when you're young, at least when I was young, and talking to a lot of other people, I think this is a general truth. When you're young, you tend to think that success correlates to I guess what you would call very tactical skills. Like you think that success is going to come from being, having the right thing to say in the right situation to close the sales deal, or having the right skill to be able to execute the technical task at the job that's going to get you noticed and get you promoted, right? It's a very, tactical and tangible skills focus when you're young. And we get that from school, right? School teaches us that there's all this knowledge and all these skills that you need to learn so that you can climb the ladder in life and achieve, whatever you're trying to achieve. Then you get older and you start to look around and you go, wait a minute, the people around me that seem to be the most successful, they're not necessarily the best technicians. They're not necessarily the ones that have even the best training. There's kind of this more, fuzzy kind of qualitative thing that seems certain people have that's just, mojo or panache or je ne sais quoi or whatever. And you start to realize, hey, wait, there's actually this other set of skills. They're softer skills that really determine success in life. So this video is going to sum all those skills up, or at least a lot of them, a lot of the key ones, into a term: leadership. Leadership is, I believe, the single most important element in your long-term success in this world. And one of the great authorities on leadership, a guy named John Maxwell, author of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he has his very first law is called the law of the lid. And it basically says that your ability to lead people is the lid on your potential for success. In other words, if you have X amount of potential for success, and if you want to have more than that, the only way to have more than that is to increase your ability to effectively lead people. And a component of the law of the lid, and again, I've learned how true and important this is as I've gotten older, is that to really do great things in this world, to have a lot of success in the world, you have to be able to attract and align with and energize really, really great people, other great people. In fact, ideally, people that are even greater than you. But the challenge is you cannot lead people who are better leaders than you. In other words, your ability to lead not only limits or determines your capacity for success in the world, but it also determines what people you're able to actually lead. Because if you bring people in that are actually more developed leaders than you, inevitably, naturally over time, they're going to end up leading you in the direction of their vision, not the other way around, right? So there is such an essential benefit to improving and developing your ability to lead if you really, really want to be successful in this world. And yet, ironically, I went to school for I went to preschool for a couple of years. I went to grade school I dropped out my junior year, so I only went for 12 years. I think I was supposed to go for 13. And then I went to college for 10 years, whole long story there. So in, 24 years of schooling, nobody ever taught me a single thing. I never took a class. I never even read a chapter of a book on the subject of leadership. And yet, as I've learned, as I've gotten older, leadership is the single biggest determining factor in your ultimate success in this world. The point is, you absolutely have to improve as a leader if you want to be successful in this world. Now, as I said, in this video, we're going to look at 6 specific traits that great leaders have, 6 things that you can develop in order to develop your overall ability to lead. And this is basically a synthesis of a lot of the work. I mentioned John Maxwell, but also a guy named Brendon Burchard. If you're watching a YouTube video on leadership, you've probably actually already seen videos by Brendon Burchard. So we've taken the ideas of John Maxwell, the ideas of Brendon Burchard, and I've kind of compressed them and synthesized them into these basic 6 traits, 6 principles of great leadership. Now, I mentioned that leadership is essentially a skill or a set of skills that we would describe as soft skills, right? So a hard skill would be, I know how to put a sugar cube in a petri dish and turn it into a butterfly. That would be a very impressive, technical, hard skill, right? A soft skill is more I know how to make people feel at ease when they step into my office. Or I know how to inspire people to get really, really committed to a goal and work on it with a sense of urgency, right? Those would be softer skills. And leadership is definitely a set of soft skills, which interestingly is why, I mentioned I never learned a thing about leadership in school, but when I actually learned a lot about leadership, and I think a lot of the business success that I've had, which is, sort of the basis for my credibility as a teacher, and it's at the core of my YouTube channel and certainly my educational business, Entre Institute, a lot of my success actually originates not from formal schooling or formal training at all, but it actually originates from the domain of soft skills, which is therapy. I actually started going to therapy about 12 years ago. And I started going to therapy because I had met a woman who had 3 kids and that were her kids. And I was very serious about her. And I was also very serious about becoming the father to those kids. They didn't have a father figure in the picture. And I wanted to marry her, and I wanted to adopt the kids, and I wanted to create a family. And I realized I have no experience being a dad, and I have no experience being a really successful husband. I had previously been divorced, and I knew that I struggled in communication and empathy and a lot of these softer skills that would ultimately lead to success in creating a family. So we decided, let's go to therapy. Let's actually work on ourselves. And what I thought was going to be kind of an acute interventional approach to like solving a problem and emerging as this changed person actually became basically a lifelong practice and obsession with just continuous evolution and personal improvement. Still in therapy to this day, quite proudly. And therapy is actually where I started assembling and developing these soft skills that I had no idea at the time. I literally did it thinking of my future wife and kids, but it actually is what allowed me and unlocked for me so much success in business. Not surprisingly, prior to going to therapy, I had had a limited amount of success, and the only success I had had in business was as a standalone or a solitary solo practitioner of certain technical skills that I could trade for money and get a result from. They had some value based on my ability to execute them, but I wasn't bringing people together. I wasn't organizing teams. I wasn't aligning people. I wasn't enrolling people into a big vision. I wasn't innovating or creating new things. I wasn't really, frankly, doing anything that noteworthy. I was just okay at certain trades and able to sell them for money. And then I started learning about communication and empathy and how to validate people and how to listen properly and how to inspire and how to manage my own energy and change the way people felt when they were around me. Again, all the stuff we learn in therapy that's just around helping us be more effective in life. And lo and behold, years later, I had a series of business experiences, kind of one after the other, where through multiple different fields, first in affiliate marketing, then running an agency, then in the direct sales industry, and then in the education business, basically I've had a string of 4 consecutive businesses that have been an outlier in terms of success within their category. And so I've kind of got this string now of 4 really, really successful business endeavors that were all bootstrapped. They were all started with very, very minimal budgets. None of them were backed by investors. None of them involved risking that much. And essentially they've been able to grow on the basis of bringing together really, really good people who are willing to work hard. In many cases, they're willing to sacrifice and even work for maybe less than they're worth initially on the basis of a big vision and a big future potential, and everybody kind of coming together and getting excited and working hard on these things. And ultimately, they've been businesses that were built on an ability to lead people. So now I am such a proponent, such a believer in the value of leadership as the fundamental skill for creating success in business and in life. I also use a lot of these skills in my family. And that's why I want to share them with you. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you 6 specific things that you can work on to develop yourself as a leader in both business and in life. These are, like I said, they're kind of assembled from the work of John Maxwell and Brendon Burchard, but I can tell you that they are field tested in my own life. The first trait of really great leaders is vision. Vision is the ability to, obviously I don't just mean eyesight, I mean vision. Vision is the ability to see something in the world or in the future that does not currently exist. Every great undertaking is organized around the idea of creating something that doesn't exist, or at least evolving something from the present into a state in which it is not currently, right? So, and this is really hard. It sounds like simple, oh, vision, I see, see something you want to see in the future, right? But the ability to have a vision, to hold the vision, because the world around you has this almost like nefarious, malicious way of trying to attack your vision. When you see something that doesn't yet exist in the world, it's almost like the world rebels against the idea. The world wants to stay static, to this idea of homeostasis, right? The world, like, everybody just seems to kind of want to keep things as it is. And so you, as the visionary, you have to be able to hold this vision and protect it and preserve it. And there's like a lot of practical things you have to do a lot of times, like cut people out of your life and don't allow certain ideas in, and kind of insulate your thinking so that you can protect this vision. And then you have to be able to communicate it to other people who themselves are always being bombarded by the same forces of status quo and the same resistance to change. And you have to get everybody aligned around this vision and sort of seeing it with the same set of eyes. And you're communicating through the imperfect mechanism of language, where you're using words as symbols for ideas based on the map that you have in your mind of what this picture looks like and what it means, and trying to translate that based on other people's maps and other people's experience. And it's like really challenging. And the biggest thing I'll say, as somebody who, especially in the work that I'm doing now, it has a massive visionary component, right? In 3 years, we've built the fastest growing education company in the world on a couple sort of visionary core precepts that were ideas that didn't exist in the world. They were based on us trying to solve what we perceived as problems in the education industry. In other words, take an industry that was the way that it is and try to turn it into the way that it could be based on a vision of how it could be. So I'm in a very visionary business right now. It is really, really hard. And the biggest thing that I've learned about it is how consistent and almost overbearing you have to be about the communication of the vision. So you have the vision, you protect the vision, you engineer your life so that it supports and preserves and prioritizes the vision, and then you constantly over communicate the vision to all the other people that need to be bought into the vision to help them try to see it too. Because you, as the visionary, your job is to focus on the vision. You, as the leader, is to focus on the vision. Their job is to do whatever their respective tasks are to support and contribute to the vision. But in that sense, it's very easy for everyone else involved to kind of start to miss the forest for their particular trees. And so you have to constantly be restating, re-illustrating, re-describing, and re-celebrating the vision. And finding all these different creative ways to do it. And probably, in fact, somebody, I forget what it was in, what book was it? I don't know if it was in Leaders Eat Last or Good to Great, or it was one of these books I've read. And it basically said, a CEO, you'll know that a CEO is actually starting to do a good enough job as a leader when every time they open their mouth about the mission, the vision, or the values of the organization, everybody starts to roll their eyes and goes, here he goes again with his mission, vision, values conversation. The point where everybody is so like, here, they've heard it ad nauseum, that actually means that you as the leader are doing enough. And it was, it's kind of a humorous way of saying, like, you need to over communicate the vision to even be sufficiently communicating the vision. Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know you can get a free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut, which will show you the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy. And there's a special link just for this episode in the description. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. And then the next trait of successful leaders is what we call enrollment. So you have a vision, but now, and I prefer the term enroll as opposed to sell, but essentially, I actually love the practice and the concept of sales, which is about having a belief that's so strong that your beliefs will be infused into the belief set of the other person, right? So two people come together, and it's essentially, we have these fields of belief, right? Our energetic fields are based on the ideas that we hold, and that one person's ideas, through the process of communication, will eventually start to osmose into the other person's ideas, right? And that's the process of sales or enrollment. That's how ideas get transferred, right? So you, as the enroller, and them, the team or the people that you lead as the enrollees, you have to be so confident and clear and boisterous and energized and on fire with the vision that you are able to enroll other people into it. But here's the key to enrollment. Nobody will ever be enrolled into anything that goes against their self-interest. Same thing in sales. Nobody's ever going to buy anything except insofar as they see it as something that is in alignment with their self-interest, such that it's worth exchanging whatever value is being asked for in the sales process. Ditto with enrollment, right? You have to be able to help people see your vision in the context of their desires, their self-interest, and see how it lines up. That is the art of enrollment. So there's two main ways that you do that. One is you really get to know people. You let them feel that you value them as people and their interests and their goals, and you help connect the dots of how this vision is going to create opportunity for them and everyone else to realize their goals. And then the other way that you create enrollment in a vision is you help people feel like they have a vested stake in the vision, like they helped create the vision, right? So as the visionary, involving other people in the ideation and creation process of the vision gives them a natural sense of being enrolled in it, and then you help them see through communication how it aligns with their personal self-interest, which obviously requires that you get to know them and understand their self-interest. That is the art of enrollment into the vision. And the next trait of a great leader is that you need to be an example. You have to actually live out the vision or the building steps toward the vision. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Nobody is going to follow a leader who is not authentically living in alignment and showing up as an example of the vision that's in development. And that's just a kind of a personal integrity check. You got to go back and look at your own life and say, am I fully embodying and in integrity with the vision that I'm laying out and that I'm attempting to enroll people into? Am I being the best example? I know that when I started Entre Institute, for example, which was intended to be the world's first, really, really highly standardized and professional school for entrepreneurs, I started, one of the first things you do when you create a business, right, is you create your email signature. Jeff Lerner, CEO, founder, Entre Institute, whatever, right? So I actually started signing my emails as the valedictorian of Entre Institute, the School for Entrepreneurs. My goal as the founder of Entre Institute was just to be the best example of the values and the teachings of the school. I thought of myself saying, I want to be the single best student of this school. I want to be the valedictorian. And for a while, now I sign it as founder, but originally when it was new and it wasn't established, and saying you're the founder of something that isn't even like real in the world yet is kind of silly. My goal, I would sign as, I'm the valedictorian of Entre Institute. In other words, I was trying to be the best example, the best student. And the next trait of great leadership is empowerment. You have to trust the people that you are wanting to trust you. One of my favorite quotes, and it's actually is a quote that comes out of the marriage, a guy named John Gottman, who's kind of like the world's leading therapist and psychologist around having healthy marriages. And his quote is, the best way to have influence over another person is to allow them to have influence over you. In other words, you naturally engage the human principle of reciprocity. When you allow people to have influence over you, they are naturally more inclined to be influenced by you over them, right? And so in marriage, you can see how that works, right? Like if you really want your wife to, cook dinner every night, then start by putting the toilet seat down. In other words, something she asked you to do is more likely, and you actually responding to something she's asked you to do is more likely to create reciprocity of her responding to something that you've asked her to do, right? And in the same way, leadership works the same way, right? You have to empower people. You have to trust the people that you are asking to trust you. So give them responsibility. There's a concept in business called lean management. This was a big thing that emerged in the 80s, and it revolutionized manufacturing and a whole bunch of other industries originally in Japan, and then it kind of came to the United States. And the concept of lean business operations is pushing decision-making down to its lowest possible level in an organization. In other words, in manufacturing, the person who's on the assembly line doing the thing should be the one who's empowered to make the decisions and who's entrusted with the competence and the responsibility to make the decisions about how to manufacture the thing, rather than some guy sitting upstairs in the corporate office trying to talk from on high down to the people on the assembly line floor and say, well, this is how you should do it, right? So I think of things, my life and any business and anything in life is the same way. In other words, push the decision-making down to the person who is most impacted by the decision. And in that way, you need to trust the people and empower them to operate based on their interpretation of the vision. And your job is to continue to communicate the vision clearly, continue to enroll them in the vision, continue to constantly realign and reorient their self-interest toward the interest of the vision, and then to trust and empower them to make the decisions about how to move the cause forward toward the vision in the category of whatever their specific role and responsibility is in the effort, right? And the next great trait, or the next trait of great leadership, is assessment. Are you constantly measuring and evaluating your team and all the different aspects that are moving in alignment toward the vision, or all the different aspects that are working on the vision, and to see how aligned are they, how efficient are they, how much progress are they making? And part of assessment isn't just doing the evaluation, but it's also delivering the feedback in a consistent and respectful way. So if you're a part of an organization and you have people, or if you're the leader of an organization and you have people that are working on something, if they are not constantly getting information fed back to them about how they're doing, that allows them to continuously course correct, because people naturally, for the most part, want to do a good job. If you've done a good job of enrollment and you've done a good job of aligning everybody's interest in the organization, people naturally want to do a good job. They don't want to be wasting their time, but you have to constantly be evaluating how they're doing and then giving them that feedback. In my organization, we do a quarterly talent assessment where once every 3 months, we take about a week and we do an independent evaluation of every single person in the organization. We bring all the different people together that interact with each person, and we crowdsource the feedback, and we create these talent assessment output documents, and we have the supervisor actually deliver the feedback back to the person, so that every 3 months in my company, you're getting direct feedback on how you're doing and opportunities to course correct and improve and continue to move toward in alignment with the vision. And it's a really good way to find out how enrolled people are. Because if you're giving people feedback, if you're evaluating and then delivering that feedback to people about how they're doing, and they're taking it, then you know they're enrolled. If they're not taking it, then you know that there's something out of alignment, where the reason people wouldn't take feedback and adapt is because either there's something in their own self-interest that they think conflicts with the interest of the vision, or there's an insecurity or a gap in their skill set or their training, which either way, you want to deliver the feedback so you can find that out, you can root that out, and you can solve for it. And the sixth trait of great leadership is simply to inspire. And that word inspire, meaning, like, think of respiration, right? Like breathing. Respiration is spirare is to breathe in Latin, and to respire is to breathe again and again. Inspiration is to breathe into someone, to breathe life, to breathe energy, to breathe drive into somebody. Being inspiring, it's about enthusiasm. It's about constantly being the champion. It's about being, like I said, the great example. Ultimately, it's about showing through your actions, through your energy every single day, that life gets better as we move towards this vision. All right, so that is 6 traits of great leadership. Hopefully you're enrolled with me on the importance of great leadership and you see it as the ultimate catalyst to your own success. Thank you for your time. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Let me know a comment below how you feel about these ideas. Have you tried them out in your own life? Is there anything you need to work on? I appreciate a like on this video, certainly a subscribe if you'd like to get more content about how to make life better. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next video. Hey, if you liked this video, then you're gonna love this video. Today, we're going to talk about leadership strategies. The best leaders have a clear vision and know what they want for themselves and others. The best leaders are not just there for themselves, but are there for the teams that they lead. So let's take a look at how you can get going with impeccable leadership.